Hi friends, so I welcome you all to lecture 4 of Sociology Uncomplicated series. In this lecture, we will study positivism, its criticism, which is given by non-positivist scholars, and interpretative sociology, which is given by Max Weber. So in continuation with the last lecture, we were studying about how positivists wanted sociology to be like a science. Now, positivism, if you want to understand in a very simple way, just understand like this. Positivism is a very simple idea that wants to study society like chemistry or biology. You observe things, you try to find laws, you try to establish relationship. Now, Auguste Comte, who was the founding father of sociology, he wanted to apply all the methods of natural science to society, which we learned in the last class. He wanted, just like we have law of gravity, which governs falling objects, we should also have certain laws that will govern human behavior. This was his prime interest. Now, what does positivism assume? The first assumption that they make is that human behavior can be measured objectively. Just like we can measure temperature or weight, we can measure the human behavior as well without applying any kind of value, without applying any kind of biases. So if you measure enough behavior of, say, for example, 10,000 people, you can find a relationship. What is causing that behavior? If you are becoming angry, then what are the causes that can make any person angry? That is establishing relationship between A and B, like science. If someone is made to disobey religion, he might feel angry. That can be a cause and effect relationship. So they will analyze 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 people, and then they will try to establish a relationship. The second assumption that they make is only what you can directly observe, which you can quantify, that only matters to them. So things like feelings, intentions, meanings, they are not bothered about it. They consider it as non-reliable data because you cannot see them, you cannot measure them. They want to study only quantifiable things. And that is why they discard all these hidden emotions. Now, human beings in this way simply will react to any outside force. Okay. Like matter, if you are heating a matter, it will expand. Society will also push the human to respond. So they are just a passive actor in terms of positivism. Now, who used positivism? Who were the founding fathers? So we discussed that Comte was the first one to use it, but we have several other people. And you will be surprised to know Karl Marx is also a positivist. Despite being part of a conflict perspective, he is also a positivist. Why so? Because he also has given a cause and effect relationship. He used to think that humans react to economic forces. Economy is deciding everything. Who will be above, who will be low, who will be suffering, who will be subjugated, who will own money, who will be powerful. That all will be decided by economy. So economy is deciding everything. He's also establishing causal analysis. That is why he's also considered a part of positivism. And the second, the poster by Durkheim. So Durkheim used the positivist approach to a very high magnitude. He analyzed religion, he analyzed the theory of society, anomy, etc. He analyzed everything with the use of scientific approach. To study the theory of society, he collected data from police station. And then did used multivariate analysis and all these statistical method to give a theory. Then your Talcott Parsons, he used a positivist approach. He studied society by amalgamating biological aspects as well with the sociological aspects. So his theory have even biological considerations. So these are the people who studied with positivist approach. Okay. Now, what is the biggest criticism of positivism? Critics asked a simple question. Can you really study human beings the same way you study chemicals? Is it possible? Your chemical is not thinking. Human is thinking. A chemical does not attach meaning to what is happening to chemical. a human will. So treating people like matter ignores the most important thing about them, that is their inner life, their consciousness, their ability to make choices. This is where non-positivism begins. Okay? So non-positivism begin from one simple idea. What was that idea? Human beings are not an object. Actors are not same as matters. They think, they feel, they interpret and give meaning to what happens around them. You are not always, your behavior is not always decided by the social institutions. You are actively thinking every day what to eat, what to dress, whom to marry. Everywhere your decisions are involved. So you cannot understand a human being from the outside world alone. You have to understand what is going inside the mind. So when positivism says observe from outside and try to find a causal analysis, non-positivism will say go inside, understand the meaning and listen to the people. Now, where did it come from? So even before sociology was formally established, there were scholars like Dilthey, Rickett, and Hegel. So they were arguing that the social world is fundamentally different from the natural world. Hegel had put it very simply. Social reality is made of ideas generated in human mind. So he gave primacy to ideas. History is driven by thoughts. And ideas outlive any human being, any institution, not just by material forces. So ideas are very prime. Ideas like socialism, ideas like communism, ideas like even religion was one idea which became formalized later on. So ideas are very, very important. By the late 19th century, this had grown into a full alternative tradition. Weber gave it most developed version. He started giving a very elaborated theory, which we will read in the unit 4. But just to understand it, he was the one who gave it a shape. Then Mead, G.H. Mead took it forward through an approach which we will study in great depth in the unit 4. Little bit depth, we will read it soon. And Alfred Schutz, Harold Garfinkel, all these people came with radical theories. Now, what are the core ideas of non-positivism? Just understand it first, then we will go to the individual schools. What goes on inside matters more than what can be counted outside. So your inner thinking is more important. It is just a manifestation. If a person has committed a crime, now you are just quantifying crime. You are not analyzing what was the process which was going on inside the mind. Then he became a cold-blooded criminal, or he went on to become a serial killer. Now that analysis will be shallow. So it is very important to understand inside the mind. The second thing is, understanding is more important than predicting. All the focus of positivist scholars are just to predict things. If A will happen, then B will happen. If C will happen, then D will happen. But non-positivists say that you have to understand things rather than predict. Okay, it's very, very important that you are understanding people rather than you are just focused on predicting things. Then you will make a person redundant, his thinking redundant. Then they say no single theory explains everything. So a person living in Andaman Nicobar, a person living in Rajasthan, a person living in Tamil Nadu, a person living in London cannot be explained by the same universal law. Their food is different, their culture is different, how they behave is different. Then they say objectivity is impossible. Every researcher brings their own background, their own biases. Even Durkheim had their own biases. Everybody has their own biases, their own values, their own perspective. And acknowledging this is more honest than pretending that you are neutral. We should acknowledge it. And then they say you are using quantified methods, what you can observe. Like they will ask you questionnaire, in that there will be close option. Option A, option B, option C, option D. So that they can quantify. If they will give open-ended question, they cannot quantify. You will write your feelings. But non-positivists say we should use qualitative method. I will interview you. I will ask your feelings. I will observe you. I will try to have a personal conversations. Are more appropriate than methods like close-ended questionnaire or surveys to understand the human experience. Okay. And let's analyze first the symbolic interactionism. It is very, very important. Okay. So symbolic interactionism has a core idea. George Herbert Mead developed this approach around one simple idea. Humans act based on the meaning they attach to things. And these meanings come from social interactions. You have attached meaning to totems, to idols, to places, to trees, to mountains, to animals. Certain animals you will say is sacred. Certain animal you will say is inauspicious. And according to different culture, this will vary. Even your language, the words have no meaning if there is no shared belief. If there is no shared meaning, words will be meaningless. So if a particular word is there, there will be a shared meaning. Then only language will exist. So this is very, very important. That develops in a social interaction. So he gives three core premises. We act toward things based on the meaning they hold for us. Second, meaning comes from interaction with others. And third, meaning can change as interaction continues. Now, let's assume you are in an interview. You are wearing a tie. You are in a marriage, you are wearing a tie. Both has a difference. In an interview, wearing tie is giving respect to the person sitting in front of you. In marriage, it is simply a style status. Okay. So with same action, same behavior can have different interpretation according to the circumstances. And he gave prime importance to symbols because without symbol, human social life would barely exist. Language is prime. Language carries your culture. Without language, can you even think? Impossible. There would be no aunts, no uncles, no teachers, no employers. Why? Because these are not biological categories. They are symbolic ones. You have made the symbol. The symbol tells you who this person is to you and how you should behave. This is your father, this is your mother, this is your aunt, and you have to behave in a particular manner. Think of this way: if you suddenly discovered that someone you thought was your cousin is actually your sibling, your entire behavior toward them would change overnight. So the relationship did not change biologically, the symbol changed, and then your behavior will change. So without symbols, there would be no hospitals, no government, no religion, no music, no bridges. Everything human requires shared symbol to exist, and language is thus very, very powerful. So he gave three key concepts. One, meaningful symbols. And language is the most powerful symbol humans have created. It allows shared meaning across the time and space. The meaning will be same. And then definition of the situation. So if people define a situation as real, it becomes real in their consequences as well. If a couple decide their marriage is over, it's over, regardless of legal paperwork. The definition shapes all that follows. It's not about legality. Then there is a theory which is called as looking glass self. That is given by coolies. So you see yourself through how others see you. Society is your mirror. You judge yourself. How I'm looking, how I'm behaving, how the third person will think about me. And you are changing your behavior according to that. Society is like a mirror to you. If people treat you as an intelligent, you begin to feel intelligent. If they treat you as worthless, you begin to feel worthless. Your self-concept is built through reflected judgment. This is called as looking glass self theory by Cooley. Then there is a perspective which is called as dramaturgical, and this has been asked by UPSC as well. Okay. So dramaturgy is simply think that your entire life is like a theater. Every interaction you are doing is a performance. You are always playing a role and managing the emotions and impression to your audience. At a job interview, you dress formally, speak carefully, and present your best self. At home with friends, you are completely casual, different. Same person, different performance, different stage. This management of impression is something all of us do all the time in every interaction. So we all are acting. As said by Franz Kafka, life was a costume party and I went naked. That means everybody is having a costume according to the role you are playing. If you are a father, you will wear a different costume. If you are a husband, you will wear a different costume. If you are a manager, you will wear a different costume. And this idea was given by Goffman. Okay, this is very, very important. You keep on labeling people, labeling theory. Labels are powerful. Once society attaches a label to a person or a group, that label shapes everything that follows. Becker studied this idea, and think an example. If you label a child as troublemaker in school, he will be treated differently by teachers, given less opportunity, and may eventually live up to that label. You can analyze caste system. The erstwhile depressed caste were labeled as inferior, untouchables, and with a due course of time, they started behaving in that manner, not realizing their own potential. That is called as labeling theory. But there are criticism of symbolic interactionism as well. The most important criticism is that they are focusing too narrowly on small face-to-face interactions and ignoring the big picture. The structure plays a role. The power will play a role. The social institutions will play a role. Religion will play a role. How you are behaving. Religion will decide how you eat, how you dress. So always there are social institutions which are regulating your behavior. It's not always about that everything is going inside a mind. Your mind is also regulated by institutions. Marxists argue that meaning do not just emerge spontaneously in any interaction. They are produced by class relations. Because Marx believed that economy is deciding everything. Then William Skidmore said that they cannot explain why people consistently choose to behave in certain manner rather than all the possible options that they have. They celebrate freedom but cannot explain the limits that every individual have. You are a woman, you have to behave like a woman, ideal women perspective. You cannot do what you want. So always there will be a society which is trying to regulate you. Nation also tries to regulate you with the regulations and rules, tries to curtail your freedom. So institutions will come to play. Then comes your phenomenology. So again, a very fundamental argument that they make is human beings have consciousness and matter does not. They start from there. The methods used to study matters are completely inappropriate. It's most radical departure from positivism. Matters react, humans act. If you are dropping a stone from a height, they simply fall. Human being given the same situation thinks, decide, interprets, and acts on the basis of meaning. So, same stimulus will be provided to you, but completely different actions will be there. You are trying to showcase something like pistol to any person. There are two persons. One will become fearful, another will try to counter you. So same stimulus will have different behaviors because meaning determines the response, not the stimulus itself. This is why the sociologist must understand the meaning, not just observe the behavior from outside. So Peter Berger captured the problem with positivism in a very beautiful manner. Positivist portray sociology, in sociology, humans as a puppet, jumping on the ends of invisible strings, cheerfully acting out the parts assigned to them. They do not have any control. But this is wrong. Humans' action stems from subjective meaning. And that subjective meaning is the central point of concern of phenomenologists. And these meanings a sociologist must discover to understand the action. Okay. Then comes your ethnomethodology. So they are very much concerned. Phenomenology is very much concerned about what is going inside the mind when you are acting in a particular manner. Ethnomethodologists are very much concerned about how you are acting in normal situations, lay methods. If you see an elderly, you are touching the feet. If you are seeing a temple, you are bowing down. If you are seeing your favorite, if you are seeing vegetarian food, you are from Brahmin community, you will cherish it. You are seeing non-veg, you will not like it. Now, how you are behaving in an ordinary situation in everyday life, the lay methods, those methods, these ethnomethodologists try to understand. The study of the methods ordinary people use to make sense of their everyday world. The core idea is social order, which you see in society, is not objective thing. It is something that me and you, are constantly creating and maintaining throughout our everyday interpretation and interaction. We make society look orderly through our procedures, our methods that we use. If we become chaotic, society will become chaotic. If we will bring new ideas, the society's order will change. Like social reformers, they bring new ideas, social order changes. There was a breaching experiment which was done by Harold Garfinkel. He tested this through an experiment, deliberately breaking everyday social rules to expose the invisible methods people use to maintain the social order. He asked students to go home and act like strangers. Okay. Being formally polite, asking for permission to sit, treating family members like acquaintances. The result was immediate confusion, anger, and distress in the family. Order is destroyed. This revealed something very important. Social order is constantly being produced and maintained by participants. When you stop doing your part, the whole thing breaks down. However, again, the ethnomethodology have been also criticized. The criticism are very sharp. Ethnomethodology is portraying people as having no real goals, no real interest, and no real motivation beyond making sense of their immediate situation. They are just interested in lay methods. They do not have any motivation. They do not have any goals. Goldthorpe, a sociologist, made a very important critique. If bombs are falling on you, you do not have to be oriented towards them in any particular way to be killed by them. Real structure forces operate regardless of whether individuals recognize them or give them meaning or not give them meaning. Caste structure will act upon you. Power, inequality, and class are real. They shape the lives whether people interpret them or not. Ethnomethodology is ignoring them completely. Okay. Goldner observed that ethnomethodology ignores processes of struggle among competing groups, like middle class. There is not one middle class. There are middle classes. Majority of the middle class only go and compete in this competitive examination. They are fighting with each other for the limited amount of opportunity. So we have middle classes rather than one middle class. Then comes your interpretive sociology, given by Max Weber. So it is the umbrella that covers all these non-positivist methods like symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology, and all other approaches. Weber used this first time in his book, Methods of Social Science. The core idea is very simple. To understand human action, you must understand the meaning the actor is attaching to a particular action. You cannot explain from outside, you must interpret the meaning from inside. This is also called the voluntarist approach. The belief that human beings have voluntary will that cannot be fully reduced to a external force, institutions, etc. So Weber gave tools as well, which we'll read in the chapter 4, like Verstehen, that is understanding with empathy, empathetic understanding, understanding the emotions. That's important. Ideal types, he made some devices, some exaggerated models of social institutions that he used to compare with the reality. He will give an exaggerated model. He studied bureaucracy. He said everything which is not existing on the ground. But he made this purposeful exaggeration to compare what is existing on the ground. He made mental structures. This we will again study in the unit 4. Okay. In America, the Chicago school, there were people like Robert Park, Louis Wirth, and G.S. Mead. They carried this tradition forward. So if we have to analyze the difference between positivism and non-positivism, so understand it simply. Positivism studies society from the outside. Non-positivism studies it from the inside. Positivism counts, measures, and finds laws, cause and effect relationship. Non-positivism listens, interprets, and finds meanings. Positivism asks what happened and how often it happened. But non-positivism will ask what does it mean to the people living it. Positivism wants to explain and predict. Non-positivism wants to understand and describe. One last example to make it fix in your memory is a positivist studying crime will use statistics to link poverty with criminality. A non-positivist will sit down with the offender, listen to their story, and ask how they understand their own choices and identity. Like you can go to YouTube, you can see the interviews of Afzal Guru. Okay, that's an example of non-positivist method. Same subject, completely different question, completely different answer, but both are necessary. So the positivist wants to study macro view, large scale patterns, and the non-positivist tries to understand the individual experiences. Positivists are nomothetic, like they are very much interested into universal laws for all. And these non-positivists are ideographic, so unique cases by cases. Uniqueness exists. Case by case approach should be there. Positivists will try to use quantitative methods, surveys, statistics, close-ended questionnaire. And here they will use qualitative method where we can understand your emotions, thinking, using interviews, observation. Interview can ask your feelings, how you're feeling, how you were subjugated to patriarchy, and then observe it. Okay. And positivists want to generalize things. Here they want to understand and describe things. Okay. So this is what you need to understand the difference between positivism and non-positivism. After this, I am very sure that you will not be confused between different methods. These examples will help you. And what I desire from you is that just like it, subscribe and comment on the video. And our answer writing course, the batch 1 is starting from the 24th June and the seats are limited. So you can enroll in that course. It will help you immensely. Thank you very much. Take care and best wishes.